Alright, so I've been to Bunnings and I've got some plywood right here. This is 6mm marine ply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hardware off the frame and then I'm going to put this under it, clamp it, cut it size, whatever, and then drill the holes through it. So then I've got the holes for all the mechanisms. I'm thinking I shouldn't even bother trying to undo these bolts. I should just cut them off because I know they're going to be fucked.
Ryan Little.
So these fit a little bit smaller than an M6. So what I'll do is I've got an M6 bolt and I've got off a roof zip, I've got a rubber washer off a roof zip. So what I'll do is, I'll probably use this rubber washer so it doesn't leak water through it. And then I'll go and cork the top of that. As you can see here, I'm fitting up the new piece for the roof hatch. The piece that I bought from Bunnings, it actually fit straight in widthways, so I've only just had to cut it down lengthways. You can see here I'm drilling the holes through to the plywood so I know where the roof hatch mechanisms bolt up to. And from here, the roof hatch is no use to me. I've got all the measurements I need. I'm using a circular saw to cut this steel out, and the blade I'm using is a Steel Demon blade. You can see I've got a jumper on and a full face mask. The chips off the blade are razor sharp and they are burning hot, so you don't want one of them landing on your eye.
Ryan Little.
If you have a hatch that needs replacing because it's rusty and you don't have a pan brake like I do, the easiest way would be just to go to a sheet metal fabricator and they'd be able to press you a section up like this, and then all you'd really need to do is drill the holes and yeah, get a piece of plywood and have it cut down. So it's not a great deal to replace something like this. There's a lot more work in the framing of it that you'll see later in the video, having to reframe the opening, but this really isn't that hard of a task. It's just a bit of a tedious one, I would say. Alright, so I've got the mechanisms for the hatch winder taken apart. Gonna paint this. I'd really like to paint it white, but I don't think I have white paint, so yeah, there's all the brackets and stuff. Got a couple of seized bolts I've got to get out, then I'll paint these up, sand back, rust convert them, and then I've just got to paint the inside of the hatch white. And there's the old one. Seen better days, obviously. Alright, so after a fair bit of messing around, I've got all these brackets primed. I've drilled out all the holes for them. So now they'll take the M6 bolts. I've got the hardware down here. I've primed it and I'm going to paint it in gold. For the hatch, I'm using Dulux Weather Shield semi-gloss. I've done 2 coats inside and out. When I flip the hatch, you'll be able to see that the other side is actually primed. So this sign material comes pre-primed, so it's right to just paint over. And you'll be able to see there's a bit of sealant on here that I've got to scrape off. So here's the next job, is all this framework. You can see it's all crumbled and rotten. So first off, I'm going to mark here where the bush is, plastic bush, and down here where the plastic bush is, so I know for future reference. And then at the front, this piece is good enough to keep, so I'll keep that piece. And then down here, this is like a stop for how high the window hatch goes, so it's pretty basic. It's just 45-degree angle. And then over here is the section that the winder mechanism goes on, which that's pretty easy to remember. So I'll start ripping this all out, make a new piece. So I've gone and put the ruler along there and measured, and then I got the adjustable square to measure how far up from the finished roof level each side. So 13mm off that and 15mm up, and then over here you can see 50 up, 555 from that front frame section. So there'll be no guessing when the time comes to fit it. And I'll probably take a measurement from here to there, just so I definitely know that if I have to cut a piece thinner or thicker. This part is pretty tedious, pulling out all the old chipboard. You just got to make sure to pull the chipboard up so you don't end up ripping the pins through the roof lining. So now I've got shitty chipboard all over the place. Show you what I've done. So pulled this piece out that was here, and these tacks, I will knock them out, and then these nails here, knock them out, pull them out. I've scraped the sealant off, so I'll reseal this. Just here, I'm gonna like chisel this out, sand it out, because it slots in along there. But for me to try and pull all that out, I don't think it'll really happen without butchering all this, which I don't want to do. I'm starting to fix the hatch now, the framework for it. So got this piece cut, I've ripped it down. It's a little bit thicker than the other section, but only by about 3mm. So the actual bars, when they hook up in, I'll just have to bend them in a bit. Here's this other piece. I was thinking about making a new one, but then I thought maybe I'll just clean it up. I'll have to have a proper look. See, there's a bit of rust there, a little bit. But yeah, I've just got another piece fitting here, up on that side, and then the back side. I did think about replacing this section just because it would look better being replaced, but it's nailed through the frame on both sides, and like it's fairly stuck in there, so I think it's probably nailed, zoom out, it's probably nailed in through there as well. So for me to get that out, I think I might just have to sand it back and paint it. You can see 1 or 2 layers of the veneers come off, so I might have to sand the veneer off, and then yeah. I've sanded the sealant off the roof for the hatch flashing. So I wore a mask because I didn't know if it was asbestos based mastic. Some of the old stuff can have asbestos in it, so bit of a tip: if you think you should wear a mask, wear one. So there we go, sanded it basically all off, as you can see. And then the next step is to, yeah, go put the flashing on, glue it on or whatever. So here I am in the hatch. I've gone and pop riveted the flashing on, and you can see there's some screws in there. I've put the screws in because I ran out of pop rivets, so I'll go buy some more pop rivets, take the screws out, put them in, and then I'll flip the camera. On the top here, I've gone and screwed the flashing to the top section. I need another screw here, but I've ran out, and what I've got to do is I've got to put the foam, because there's a piece of foam that it seals against. And tomorrow, when this is all dry, I'll wipe this off, sand it off, just to clean up little bits of steel, and then I'll get the seam sealer and go all the way over to put a full film all the way, and then I'll 2-pack prime it, and after I 2-pack prime it, I'll top coat it with the weather shield stuff, and then I'll be ready to put the hatch on. I'm also due to clean up the Caravan because it's absolutely filthy from doing all this hatch work. Yep. I'm not sure if I've showed the hatch after the second coat. So, zoom in. There we go. All done and finished. The weather is half decent today. It was raining a little bit, but hopefully it stops raining, and the plan will be to reseal the hatch. So you can see here on my to-do list, I've gone and taken the self-tappers out, and I've replaced them with these. So these are the sealed head rivets. On your rivets, usually there's a hole in there and the water can leak through the hole, so these are rated for like rainwater tanks or whatever. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. It's Flexi Seal, and it's a adhesive and sealant. I went out and bought a sausage gun. Here it is. Cost $70. Now, for the prices, the 600ml tubes, because these are 600s, they're twice as big. They're $21.84 each. Or if you get a 600, it's $16.39. So if you want to do 6 litres of corking, if you use the sausages, it'll cost you $218.40. If you buy the 300s, it'll cost you $327.20. So you look at the difference, over $100. So if you need to do a fair bit of corking, and that's only just buying 10. So I'll use this easily, just doing the roof hatch, and I'll use it to reseal the windows, but I could see myself using probably at least 2 or 3 of these. And yeah, I've done other jobs and I've literally used 10 tubes of this stuff, and I would have been way better off just buying the sausage gun from the start. What I'm doing here is I'm just cleaning up any excess bits of sealant, and when you drill the holes for the rivets, you can end up with little steel burrs in your sealant, and you don't want that. So you want to make sure the job's nice and clean for when you do the final coat of sealant. If you ever have a job like this where you've got a fair amount of sealant to put on, it's worth masking up, because it'll give you a border to work to, whereas if I wasn't putting a border on there, it ends up pretty messy pretty quick. So basically you can just work to the border of the tape. when I start to put the sealant on, I just do it in increments. So if I went all the way around applying the sealant, what will happen is the sealant will end up forming a skin, and then it just becomes unworkable. What I'm using to smooth the sealant down is a body filler applicator. So you just want to get one that basically matches the width of where it butts up to the flashing and where the tape is. This is one of those jobs where a bit of experience and a bit of skill pays dividends, because it can be pretty easy to make a mess of this. The main thing is just to keep the bead height consistent. Like, you don't want really thin patches, you don't want really thick patches, and you just mainly want to cover the heads of the rivets. So about, say, 2 or 3 millimeters above the heads of the rivets, and that's about perfect. You can see here as well, I'm alternating between the body filler applicator size. So the small one just gets in all the hard to reach places, and then you can use the bigger one just to smooth it over. I got absolutely hammered by the wind doing this. I think I picked the windiest day. You'll be able to see in a couple of seconds how windy it actually is. And that's actually my phone and tripod falling off the top of the Caravan. If you look closely, you'll be able to see that I've got hex head self-tappers on the front side, and the reason I used hex head self-tappers is it's actually timber framed under there, so rivets wouldn't have been any use to me. This side also needed a bit more sealant because of the height of the screw heads. I had to make sure they were covered. What I've got here is a paintbrush and some mineral terps just to smooth the sealant over. Now you got to make sure not to do it too early, and you got to make sure not to do it too late. If you do it too early, you can make a proper mess of it, and if you do it too late, it'll skin over, and then you'll basically just end up pushing the sealant around. The purpose of this is basically just to neaten it up. You don't want to go digging trenches or anything with the paintbrush, because then you're going to start exposing the rivet heads. So it's just to ensure a smooth transition back to the roof cladding. Right, so I'll show you the roof reseal job. There's the empty sausage. So had I done it the other way, as you can see on the list, it would have cost me 2 tubes at nearly 33 bucks, but it only cost me about 22 bucks, which is pretty good. And I'll show you up here, just zoom out. Probably pick the windiest day you could possibly do this. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, really happy with it. And the next step is to go get some 2-pack primer. There's the old flogged out roof hatch. And yeah, 2-pack prime it, and then just got to drill the holes and mount the roof hatch. And it'll be job done, almost. This is a PPG primer that I used for the wheel wells. So I slapped a few coats on. And then when it dries, top coat time. I've managed to get all the rivets done in the roof hatch. So because this plywood was 6mm, I've had to get longer rivets. If I
was to make this again, I'd probably do it with 3mm plywood, but from memory Bunnings didn't have any in stock, so it's either make it out of 6mm and get it done, or make it out of 3mm and don't get it done. The thickness of this is 0.95 as well, so I'd probably do it in 3mm ply and then do this stuff in like 0.55. This is the top side of the hatch. You can see there I've got the rubber washers from the roof zips that I've taken off, so I will cork around them as well, and then obviously the rivet heads, and there's a couple of holes there from the sign originally, so I'll cork them as well. A few spots I've got to touch up because it's scraped on the steel underneath it while flipping it over. Here's a bit of a look. I've sealed up all the pop rivets, and you can see over here I've done the bolts as well. I could get the paintbrush and clean them up and neaten them up, but there's really no purpose. The more you mess around with it, the more you can mess it up. But I will top coat this sealant as well. It doesn't do so well if it's not painted, so it needs to be painted. Righto, I'm fitting the hatch now, so I'm just drilling the holes for the bushes. Got that one drilled, and on the other side drilled as well. What I'm doing is I'm using a spade bit, just so I know it's definitely centered. This is a 13mm spade bit, and then drill the rest out. With the drill, mark it with the tape so you don't drill too deep. Been to Bunnings once again for something different, and what I've bought is some trims. These are tile trims, $15 for 2.5 meters, and these will go up here just to cover this edge. As you can see, I've mited it, and they've got the sticky adhesive backing, but I don't really trust that that will stick on and be permanent, so I'll go and use the adhesive sealant, run it along there, glue it up.
There's another video done and dusted. The hatch opens and closes as it should, and all the trims are done. From here, I've just got to put the foam between the two surfaces, and the fly screen needs to be fit into the frame and the frame mounted. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like or subscribe if you want to see some more in the future. I've got heaps more stuff to do on the Caravan. The drawbar needs replacing because it's completely rusted through, so I'll be fabricating a new one out of thicker material, and I'll be extending it as well. I end up cutting out all the floor joists. They're pretty rusty and flimsy. The time it takes to sand the rust, I can just take them out and replace it with stronger material. The Z rails all need replacing, and as you can see here, the old wind down legs, I cut them out and I'm going to replace them with drop down legs. But yeah, if you want to see the next video, click subscribe. You'll be able to see the work that I do on the chassis, how I handle the problems that I encounter. And if you own a van like this, or you're considering buying one, hopefully these videos can give you an insight into the work needed to fix them up and bring them back to a good standard. As always, thanks for watching. If you could give the video a like, that'd be appreciated. And yeah, I might see you for the next one. Cheers.